It seems your husband passed away in an overseas business trip accident.
I was shocked by a phone call from a colleague of my husband during work. Eh? No way. Thrown into confusion by the sudden news, I couldn't find the words to respond. According to them, there was a maritime accident with numerous casualties. My husband's name was on the passenger list, but it was likely that he had sunk to the bottom of the sea. At that moment, I realized I had become a single mother, carrying a 1-year-old child. However, for years later, I never expected to encounter my husband again in such a way. At that time, I, who was 30 years old, celebrated my daughter Madison's first birthday, feeling the pinnacle of happiness. Kevin, my husband, was the president of his own company, often returning home late due to his busy schedule and even working on weekends. Although the company's income fluctuated, being a pharmacist, I intended to support him. Our meeting happened 2 years prior during a dinner I was invited to by friends. He was modest and considerate, and I felt something different about him. "Hey, I'd like to talk to you."
Ha! Maya, was it? Are you okay with someone like me? I can't say clever things.
To his shy response, I became even more drawn to him. Our relationship progressed with me taking the lead, and 6 months later, we got married. We decided to only take commemorative photos instead of having a ceremony, and only my parents, who lived far away, participated in the photo shoot. A year later, our daughter Madison was born. As expected, my kind husband shared household chores and parenting duties when at home, and I was happy.
I lost my parents early and was an orphan, so creating my own family was a dream. Thanks, Maya.
He murmured, savoring happiness. However, when our lovely daughter turned 1, we were plunged into the depths of hell. That day, I left Madison at the nursery and went to work as usual. Being a pharmacist is a job that requires focus, as a mistake in medications or formulations could be life-threatening. In this tense workplace, I received a phone call addressed to me. My usually indifferent boss rushed over in a hurry. Somehow having a bad feeling, I hurriedly answered the phone. The person, claiming to be my husband's subordinate, told me something unbelievable.
I'm your husband's subordinate, and since your contact number was listed as an emergency contact, I'm calling you.
Is something wrong with him?
Please brace yourself. Your husband passed away in a maritime accident at the destination.
Eh? No way, that can't be. I couldn't comprehend the situation. Recently, my husband, who went on a business trip abroad.
I'll leave it to you while I'm away. I'll buy Madison something as a souvenir.
He left the house with a smile. However, according to the person on the phone, a cruise ship around the island capsized, and his name was on the passenger list. Many casualties were reported, and I recalled seeing such news on TV. Among them, there were also his colleagues from the company, but my husband was the only one not found.
He probably sank to the bottom of the sea.
Hearing that, I was deeply shaken and collapsed on the spot. Despite Madison being only 1 year old, I suddenly became a single mother. I left handling my husband's matters to the people from the company, but I couldn't afford to grieve. I was too shocked, and my memories of that time were so hazy that I could barely remember anything. Even so, I managed to live desperately with a child in my arms. 4 years passed, and life finally began to stabilize. Madison, now 5 years old, was a cheerful and talkative child, and thanks to her, I finally regained the ability to smile out loud. Immediately after the incident 4 years ago, it was difficult to talk about my husband, but lately, I've been meeting friends and even giving updates on my life. Among them, the friend I started meeting most frequently was my university friend Mika. She had graduated from college and immediately moved far away after marriage, and we had grown distant for a while, not even reporting my marriage. Mika, who had divorced due to her husband's infidelity and returned to her parents' house, heard about my husband's death through rumors. It must have been tough. She contacted me, and we reunited after a long time. Since then, struggling individuals, we started encouraging each other. One day, during our casual conversation, I heard a surprising story. "Hey, remember our high school classmate Sally?" "Eh? What happened to her?" "She had been single for a long time, but she suddenly got married the other day. Moreover, it was a private ceremony in Hawaii with only close relatives. I was quite close to her, but I was surprised when I found out on the social media. Sally was an incredibly beautiful person who everyone turned to look at, and she was very popular from our school days. I remember going for tea and enjoying shopping with her several times. Walking in the city with Sally, I recall people's gazes gathering on her. That Sally got married. I wonder what kind of wonderful person her partner is." A little intrigued, I asked Mika. "Oh, I follow her on social media, so there are images," she said, showing me the screen of her smartphone. As I looked at the photos, my heart leaped with surprise. "Eh? Kevin." The person in those images, surprisingly, looked exactly like my husband, who was supposed to have died in an overseas accident. I couldn't believe it, and upon closer inspection of the photo, even the distinctive mole near the mouth was the same. Also, Sally's comments like, "I was attracted to his modest kindness and the lone man," matched the him I knew. What on earth is going on? Is Kevin alive? Seeing my changed expression, Mika became worried, but I hesitated whether to share the detailed story with her. However, I couldn't just hide it from Mika, who was worried about me. "Eh? Can such a thing happen? Not a doppelganger but the real person? Aren't you having delusions due to excessive sorrow?" With a suspicious look, Mika raised an eyebrow, and I showed her multiple images of Kevin that were saved on my phone. She, astonished but, "This seems unmistakably him," murmured. "In that case, my husband is alive and has betrayed me." But wait. If my husband is supposed to be deceased, is it possible for him to marry Sally? As I pondered various thoughts, the 4 years of suffering flashed before my eyes like a series of images, and tears welled up. Pull yourself together, Maya. Is this really okay for you? No, regardless of the reason, I can never forgive him. Encouraged by my best friend, I resolved to seek revenge against him. Later, to learn about Sally's current situation, she contacted her for me. And through that, I learned an astonishing truth. Could such a thing really happen? Yeah, it's like a drama. But still, it's strange. At that time, there was indeed a message from the company that your husband had passed away, right? With such doubts in my mind, I decided to investigate more about my husband. 2 weeks later, taking a day off and leaving my daughter with Mika, I headed to a town outside the prefecture where Sally lived. This was to visit the brand clothing store where she worked. As soon as I entered the store, Sally noticed me and, despite her surprise, approached me with a smile. "Eh? Maya? Wow. I'm surprised. It's been so long." "Yes, it's been years. Mika told me that you work at this store." "Really? How nostalgic. Sally enthusiastically responded to our reunion. Honestly, I hadn't come to see her. My purpose was to investigate my husband. Feeling guilty about this, I silently apologized to Sally. Afterward, with determination hidden in my heart, I proposed that we go for a meal after work. Hey, since we're here, how about having a meal later? Sounds good. Let's do that. By the way, I'd like to meet your husband. You got married, right? Sure, even though it's messy. Want to come to my place? Of course, I gladly accepted that proposal. Lucky turn of events. I'll make sure to confirm everything with my own eyes. And with that hidden determination, I went to Sally's house with her. I'm back.
Welcome home, Sally.
However, from behind Sally, I'm sorry for intruding. When I unexpectedly appeared, he stared at me with wide eyes and froze. Seeing Kevin up close, there was no mistaking it was him. You're alive.
Who might you be?
He furrowed his brows in a puzzled manner, looking at me. What's with that expression? Suspicious. Not willing to back down at this point, I press him further. You've forgotten my face?
Even if you say that. I don't know. Who are you?
Hearing our conversation, Sally was surprised. First, let's go upstairs and talk calmly. She said that to me. Led into the living room, facing me with a troubled expression, she quietly began to speak. Maya, what do you know about him? Actually, he has some circumstances. I had already heard from Mika over the phone, but according to Sally, her husband had amnesia due to an accident. He didn't even know his real name and called himself Santiago. Until his memory returned, they couldn't legally marry, but attracted by his kindness, they decided to hold a wedding ceremony only. Is Kevin really suffering from amnesia? Or is he deceiving Sally too? At that point, I couldn't make a judgment, but he seemed strangely unsettled and avoided eye contact with me. Feeling suspicious, I decided to confront him. In fact, he's a notorious scam. He's been caught by the police multiple times. Haven't you been taken advantage of too, Sally? I heard he pretends to have amnesia and deceives people.
I'm not a scam. I just lost my memory. Please understand.
Saying that, Kevin desperately tried to defend himself. Despite his words, his eyes darted around, and sweat formed on his forehead. Oh, really? I was deceived too. I have photos from that time, and even a picture of Madison. Oh, that's right, I have Madison's photo too. Who's Madison? Santiago has mentioned that name in his sleep. As Sally tilted her head in confusion, I tried to show her the photos of Kevin and Madison stored on my phone. However, Kevin shouted sharply.
Hey! Maya! Stop it!
At that moment, Sally's expression changed. Santiago, how do you know Maya's name? I haven't introduced her yet.
Huh? Ah! Just now, I feel like I remember a bit. But my head hurts like it's splitting.
Even as Kevin continued to evade the situation, I presented something to him. It was the investigation report on my husband that I had requested from an acquaintance detective. You deceived me too. Being a company president was a lie. Your parents are alive and work on a farm, right? According to the detective's findings, even the overseas business trip was a fabrication. To disappear from my life, He had most likely hired someone to pose as a company associate and make a false call about the accident. Sally seemed convinced of the contents of the investigation report, and she glared at Kevin. Pretending to have amnesia to gain my sympathy? You're the worst. Realizing that there was no escape, Kevin began to make excuses.
Understand me. I only love Sally. It was love at first sight.
Surprisingly, Kevin had found a photo of Sally in my album after marrying me. He rummaged through my notepad, acted like a detective to find her home address, and then, feeling he couldn't approach her with me and a child in the picture, he decided to erase his existence.
At that time, there was news of a cruise ship accident. I thought I could use that to my advantage and pretend I died.
For him, who had lied about going on a business trip abroad and left the house, it was a convenient opportunity. Exactly as imagined, he had hired someone with money, pretended to be a company associate, and had them make the fake call about the accident to me. If you want to be with Sally, it would have been easier to just ask for a divorce. There was no need for such an elaborate lie.
But then, I'd have to pay alimony and child support to you, right? If I pretend to have gone to the afterlife due to the accident, my pockets won't hurt, right?
His absurd reasoning left me speechless. And Kevin, pretending to have amnesia, successfully gained Sally's sympathy and ended up becoming her lover. Sally covered the costs of their new home, wedding, and living expenses, all of it. Unbelievable. I was completely deceived too. Angry at Kevin, Sally tried to cling to him.
I just desperately wanted to be with you, that's all.
At that moment, a burning anger surged through me. You never thought about me or Madison? Unbelievable.
We met as soulmates. There's nothing we can do about it.
Kevin, without a trace of remorse, retorted defensively. However, Sally, staring at him, had completely lost her warmth. I don't need someone like you. Thanks to you, I've opened my eyes.
We love each other. Please forgive me.
Sally, still miserable, kicked Kevin away with a fierce expression. It's useless no matter what you say. You'll pay back all the money I've invested so far.
I don't have any savings. It's impossible.
Seeing Sally, who remained expressionless despite his pleading, he suddenly turned to me for help.
Come on, help me, Maya.
I have no obligation to help a stranger. Don't joke around. After being missing for 3 years, the divorce was granted based on the assumption that my husband had passed away, so Kevin and I were now in a relationship worse than strangers. I'll also claim alimony and child support, and I'll sue you for fraud, so be prepared.
No. This wasn't supposed to happen.
Kevin broke down in tears on the spot, but it was all his own doing. Later, Kevin was taken into police custody. Guilty of pretending to have passed away, abandoning his wife and child, deceiving Sally and extorting a large amount of money, he was convicted and lost his job. I claimed a lump sum of $30,000 in alimony and $600 in monthly child support. Sally also demanded a payment of $50,000, covering wedding expenses, living costs, and compensation. His parents, who had lied about not having any relatives and had been falsely declared deceased, were furious upon learning the truth. They disowned Kevin completely. Truly left alone, he now works hard from morning till night in physically demanding labor to fulfill the payments to both Sally and me. On the other hand, my life has returned to a peaceful routine with Madison. I engage in enjoyable interactions with Mika and Sally. I am eagerly looking forward to meeting a new life partner. How was this story for you? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.